the right of Israel to defend itself. Look at that. This is very important. The right of Israel to defend itself. Against whom? Against the occupied people of Israel itself. Against people who have been blockaded 16 years ago in a concentration camp, refugees under starvation siege. And then the right of Israel to defend itself. So when you look at that, definitely you see that no one at this stage is protecting the Palestinian people. Actually, not even protecting them, sending them water and sending them medical aid, try to give them food through the crossing of Rafah with Egypt is not allowed, but in a very tiny way. So, of course, this is something that all of us are sadly witnessing. You know, I was reading in the Times in London the story, which I would love actually to give you the headline of it, which is very interesting. You know, the headline says, the story, "Meet the Britons defending the only place Jews feel safe." And it speaks about hundreds and thousands even of people leaving from Britain to fight against the Palestinians in Gaza. And the newspaper is proud to tell the heroic stories of these British people joining the fight in Palestine, you know. So we're not talking about defending the Palestinians. We're talking about this international, you know, support from the West in particular. And this is why I'm saying, you know, really, and I'm serious, I've been dealing with the Western media and Western politics and Western circles for decades now. I know exactly what I'm talking about. This is a moment where if the people in the West do not stand against their governments, they are sacrificing their future. This is a moment when if we do not tell truth to power, tomorrow we are going to suffer a lot of consequences of that, you know? So, I mean, when I look at even the national interest of these countries, look at the national interest of the United States of America that has declared that its main challenge is going to be China, you know? And now it finds itself protecting Netanyahu adventure in the region by sending its power and getting involved technically, not only by sending weapons, but also giving the political cover and even maybe engaged in operations in a land. And what kind of strategic interest the United States of America is achieving by doing so? While China and Russia are actually the countries that are building themselves. I remember when the war against Afghanistan and later on against Iraq happened. I covered both wars, by the way. I remember how much the Chinese and the Russians were happy about it. And I remember distinctly hearing in Beijing a statement which I will never forget. In 2008, I heard from very important official in the Chinese government that if the Arabs, at that time he said that word, if the Arabs did not engage with the Americans would have been attacking us by now. So the priority was very clear. And the Americans supposed to have learned from fighting with people in that region that there is nothing really to achieve, because in both Iraq and Afghanistan, they haven't achieved much. They have actually drained their energy while everyone else is building his power. So imagine to what extent there is lack of focus, there is lack of statesmanship, lack of strategic evaluation of the situation, that Biden administration is dragging America back into the region and allowing everyone else to settle the account of America in our region. This is one. The second, which is extremely important, the world has changed. We are not in 2001. it is not the 11th September moment. The world since then has changed. We have moved beyond that. Now, the balance of power is shifting. And we have people challenging the American hegemony and the Western hegemony. And we have seen even in Ukraine how the global South did not respond the way that people responded on the 11th of September. So this issue has happened after the Ukraine, and of course, this is adding to the new challenge that the Western hegemony is having. So I see that there is lack of leadership, there is confusion, and there is even some form of sacrificing national interest for the sake of something, in my opinion, is not going to give back, but more and more loss of image, of status, of and rise, actually, of hatred. And unfortunately, this is, I have to say it. You know, when some stupidly naive person soon is going to ask why they hate us. I mean, really? You know? So the point is, I think history has not been looked at carefully, and people did not learn from it, and we are repeating the same mistakes, and then we have to move forward. I have another comment on what Daniel has said about the partition and the land and the future. In moments like this, when everyone is going crazy, basically, especially, you know, the kind of media and genocidal language that we are hearing from the Israeli leaders and from the Western leaders at large, and the call for religious wars and all this kind of statements, I love to go back to the foundations. The concept of anti-Semitism that Avi spoke about is very alien to our culture, by the way, in the Middle East. We did not have that concept of anti-Semitism. You know, this is not Oriental issue. It has been an Occidental issue. It is a Western issue. You know, so the Jews, when they historically, they had in the Islamic world, especially in the Middle East, the most welcoming environment. And they lived together with Muslims and the Christians, because our land is a mosaic of culture for thousands of years. It has not been, you know, something like that.